Now to what is an incredibly emotional day in my home city of Nottingham. It's the first anniversary today of the killings of the students Barnaby Webber and Grace O'Malley Kumar and the school caretaker Ian Coates. Earlier today, families and friends of the victims laid roses where the two students were killed. The GBNews had exclusive footage of the moment when Valdo Calocane was arrested a year ago today. The families have issued a statement this week saying they still believe Calocane should have been tried for murder rather than being given an indefinite hospital order for manslaughter and 3 attempted murders. Well, joining me now is the editor of Nottingham Live, Natalie Fahy. Natalie, welcome to the show. It's always a delight to have you on. It's a shame it's under such sad circumstances, and yet, Natalie, we must look back not only to remember that terrible day, but also I wanted to ask you, what's the mood in the city? We were told at the time we must learn from this. The police itself was subsequently put into special measures. Many questions were asked of the mental health services in the city of Nottingham. Natalie, you edit the local website, the paper there. You've got your finger on the pulse. Have any lessons been learned from that terrible day a year ago today?
Well, I think it won't surprise you to hear from me that no, lessons have not been learnt. In fact, I'd probably go so far as to say the situation's got worse. I was going through all the investigations and the reviews that are going on at the moment before I came on here. I've got 2 pages of notes and, you know, I'm not going to bore you with all the names of them all because there are so many going on. But it's that kind of, you know, will we get any answers? Well, we're not going to get any at the moment, that's for sure. The police are being investigated, the mental health services are being investigated. The IOPC, which is the police watchdog, told us this week they're nowhere near concluding their investigations into potential failings Nottinghamshire police might have committed, and Leicestershire police as well. So it's very much ongoing. And plus the fact you mentioned there that Nottinghamshire police are now in special measures. So in terms of the kind of wider community feel about things, there's a massive mistrust of the police. And in some quarters, a quite intense dislike of them as well, because they were picked up for not treating victims properly and investigating crimes properly. So that is a massive problem in a community. Police, you know, their authority comes from trust from the community, doesn't it? That's how they can carry on how they want to, because otherwise there'll be riots, all that kind of thing. I'm not saying we're close to that at all. But if people don't trust the police and that they can properly look after them when they need them most, where do we go from there? I mean, I've got ideas, you know, and Emma Webber, who is the mum of Barnaby, you can see in that footage there, that was their last moments there. She's actually said on the record, Kate Maynell, Chief Constable of Nottinghamshire Police, it's time for her to step aside. And, you know, for her to say that, I would agree with her. The police have lost trust. They've got potential failings sitting on their shoulders from how they, you know, they didn't capture Calocane when they should have done. There was a warrant for his arrest 9 months before the killing. They're in special measures. Where can they go from here? It's time for somebody fresh to come in, I think.
And Natalie, the last time we spoke, I was very moved by a piece that you'd written talking about how citizens of Nottingham no longer feel safe on the streets. And then we spoke again where there was a couple of young lads who were jailed. There was a machete fight in broad daylight at the bottom of Hockley there. These are streets I grew up on. These are streets I'm very, very familiar with. Natalie, it gives me intense sadness to see this kind of activity going on in the city of Nottingham. And clearly your readers, your viewers, they agree with you. Surely what people want, Natalie, is a more robust police service. People want to feel safe. They want to feel they can go about their business as ordinary, hard-working citizens, taxpayers, respectable people, without this shadow hanging over them. And yet, Natalie, it seems to be getting worse.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I've spoken before about how Nottingham just has this feeling of not being safe anymore. And it's all about that perception, isn't it, of how safe you feel when you're walking around. And things like this make people feel less safe. And if they think the police force is not going to be there to help them when they need them the most, it's very, very worrying. So, you know, I think it is time for a change here, absolutely. But you were talking there about taxpayers, working people, wanting to feel safe. But we mustn't also forget the massive student community we've got here in Nottingham, who of course is supported by taxpayers. That is going to be, I don't know what the university's particular thoughts on these incidents are, but I can imagine it doesn't look very good for potential students coming to the city. Overall, Nottingham is very safe. Obviously, this was a one-off. Things like this don't happen all the time, but it's about the feeling, isn't it? Because students are out in the early hours. They might be in small groups, they might be by themselves. I've been a student in a big city myself, and you do sometimes walk home in the early hours of the morning. So it might be the case that parents are going, well, maybe we should think about a different city, It's that kind of thing. And it must have impacted on the student community, and I really feel for them, because we should be protecting them as well.
And Natalie, there was a very moving, one of the things that's been the most incredibly moving about this entire episode was the victim impact statements from the family who lost people on that fateful day 1 year ago today. And today, Lee Coates, he's one of the sons of Ian, he was saying, I was getting, I don't know if you call it PTSD, but I closed my eyes and all I could envision was what happened that night. And Natalie, is that feeling of the inability to move on from this in many senses, because there's still a feeling across all of Britain, but especially perhaps in Nottingham, that justice wasn't really served. This guy should have been tried for murder. There's a feeling that he got away with stuff.
Yeah, exactly right. And I don't think the family should move on yet. They haven't got the answers to the questions they've posed. So it's quite right that they keep going. We've seen a bit of a pause today in their campaigning because they've taken the time to remember their loved ones. They've been at the university for a vigil. The Coates family were at the school where Ian Coates worked, having a private memorial service there. There was a massive student group with the O'Malley Kumars and the Webbers who went to lay flowers in Ilkeston Road this morning. So they have had a bit of a pause, but we've got to know the families very well over the last year. And Emma Webber in particular, she's an absolute tower of strength. She won't stop until she gets the answers that all the families deserve. And we completely admire her for that, because they need to keep going. And I feel in a way they're doing this on behalf of so many other people as well, because we've heard about the police potential failings, but also there's potential failings of the mental health services. That is something we're seeing across the whole country. We've started going to more inquests where people have been potentially failed by mental health services. We've had whistleblowers coming forward. We've been threatened with legal letters over it. And it's always the same themes coming through: staff shortages, overstretched, not enough resource. Emma Webber, she's doing a fantastic job and she should keep going.
I absolutely agree. It's been inspirational. So often in those darkest hours, goodness can come out of it, at least in that sort of trueness of spirit to carry on. And thank you for the work that you do, Natalie Fahy, shining a light on this. And, please reach out to me. Anything you want to get out there on the media, I'd be delighted to help, because I'm from Nottingham. I'll be at Nottingham in the weekend and see my dad for Father's Day. I'll be in the Bell Inn, my usual haunt. And, I just love the city, and it really breaks my heart to reflect on what's happened to it. Natalie, thank you very much. I'm getting emotional here. Thank you very much.